From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 21. Today's show is brought to you by Hover, Simplified Domain Management, and Loot Crate, a monthly subscription box for epic geek and gamer items and pop culture gear. My name is Mike Hurley, and today I'm joined by Mr. Stephen Hackett. Hello, Stephen Hackett.
Hello, Michael Hurley.
And the glorious return of Federico Viticci. Hello, Federico.
Hey guys, how are you?
Happy to have you back.
I'm happy to be here again. Happy New Year to Steven.
You too, buddy.
Because we didn't talk. I said Happy New Year to Mike last week, but I didn't say that to you. So, do you celebrate the New Year in Tennessee?
We are aware of it.
They have a different calendar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you do.
It's 1945 in Tennessee.
In some ways, that's not untrue. But it was lovely. Had a nice Italian dinner actually, and then then went home.
What did you have to eat?
I had so Italian in air quotes, right? Because Federico's here. But I had a lovely ravioli and meat sauce and some salad and some tea. It was good.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do at midnight? Did you just stare at the OS X installer?
I was in bed early.
Oh.
I didn't see the midnight.
My idea would have been better, I think.
Probably. I think I should have gone with what you went with, but I'm old and staying up till midnight seems impossible.
Cool. So yeah, it feels good to be back, Mike. The last episode was really great. You guys did a great job, I think. 2014 has been a strange year for technology. What do you think we're gonna see this year?
The Apple Watch.
The Apple Watch, like Jeff Bezos buys Relay FM.
Federico, you sound a little under the weather.
I do?
Yeah, you sound like you've got a cold.
Well, yeah, I had one like a couple of weeks ago.
Are you still? Did you have a heavy New Year? Like a week later, are you still feeling the effects of New Year?
Well, it takes a while to get back to the usual routine. It's been not a great first week of the year for me, but now it should be getting better. That's how I like to look at it.
One of the unfortunate things about 2015 so far is that we have 100,000 pieces of follow-up.
It's an entire page in our Google Doc.
This is the most I've ever seen. So, do you want to get started?
So we'll get started. So, FU number one.
FU number one.
You're saying FU, but then you're calling me number one. It's very conflicted. It's like you're the best, worst person I know. So, listener Arno wrote in and basically asked, do App Store rejections, which we've talked a lot about, of course, matter in the grand scheme of things? So Arno's argument is that while app rejections are like obviously a big deal to us and our friends, that maybe like normal people, it's not such a big deal that, like Federico likes to call them normal people, his like our friends who aren't in this space, like do they even use these apps that get like bumped, by Apple? And even if they do, like, is it a big deal that these features or these apps are like held back because, most people don't really care about things like today widgets that can fire app actions and that sort of thing. So at least my 2 cents is that I will concede that this is sort of a problem that is limited to a certain slice of the App Store and a certain slice of customers of the App Store. But I would argue that it is part of the market that Apple should pay attention to because we do have influence in, the press, and that we are the people who Apple needs to buy the watch on day one and who will end up buying the watch on day one more than likely. So while we are a small part of the market, I would argue that we're an important one.
I agree.
I don't think normal people, my friends, as I call them, I don't think they care about the same apps that we care about. They don't use stuff like drafts or pCalc. And I mean, there are people, of course, who use them, but it's just on average, I don't see those kinds of, more articulated apps on other people's home screen. But the ignorance doesn't make it right. Just because the majority of customers on the App Store don't use the same apps that we do because we are more tech savvy, or we just like to. I mean, Steven, you run a website about comparing the best apps for the job. Because millions of people don't. They just want the free utility from the App Store. They don't want the best or, the more powerful app. It doesn't mean that Apple shouldn't be paying attention to this problem, especially because when they have rules and when they don't follow those rules, that's just wrong. And when you come up with a stupid exception, that's just stupid. There's no excuse for the stupidity of some App Store rejections. So if you want to make up rules as you go, I don't think that's a great idea. I think Apple should, update the guidelines and clearly state, here's what we want you to do, here's what you cannot do, because that's a new rule on the App Store. And I don't think that, releasing new iOS features, just like they did with iOS 8 at WWDC, and then saying, yeah, we have this feature, but you cannot use it because otherwise we're going to reject you. I don't think that's a great behavior from Apple. I don't think that's a great strategy. So even if people don't care about this, it doesn't mean that Apple shouldn't be better. And hopefully next year they will be better.
I think, for myself, part of the problem that I see with this is, the indie developers that go through these problems end up being the people that set trends that the bigger apps follow. So, if you look at stuff like pull to refresh or, X callback URLs, things that are used now by, all the biggest apps because they end up setting, trends or design features or just standard kind of interaction methods that we get used to. These things were all pioneered by indie developers who were pushing the envelope, and if Apple makes it harder and harder and harder for them, it's going to stunt the development of the entire platform.
Yeah, it's like you're going against the people who experiment and come up with all the ideas that eventually trickle down to more mainstream software. So I think it's extremely important to make sure that the people who, the pioneers of software, always get the best deal, and that's really problematic, for people like us, because these are the apps that we use and that we love, and it's concerning to see a company releasing all these features and then months later, even after approving these apps, coming up with all sorts of exceptions, and then and even that's not necessarily the worst part for me. The really bad part about these App Store rejections is first you approve an app and then you reject it, and then the following day, because the developer went to the press, you accept the app again. It makes it seem like you don't know what you're doing.
It makes Apple look weak, I think.
Yeah, and when they say, because they had this crazy weird blog post on the developer blog, and they were like, remember that the most effective way to appeal to a rejection is to use the app review board. That's not true, because when people went to the press, to TechCrunch and other blogs, that was really the most effective way, because it took less than 24 hours. And there was a blog post from Panic where they said that because of these blog posts, we managed to get Transmit with the iCloud Drive feature back on the App Store. So what you're saying on the developer blog, it sounds like an excuse because it's not true. Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know.
I like Marco's take on it, that it kind of sounded like a threat.
Yeah,
it does kind of sound like a threat. It's like a sort of I don't know, it sounds like a Godfather type thing,
Yeah.
If you know it's good for you, you won't. Yeah.
Making you an offer that you can't refuse.
Exactly. Phil Schiller's just outside someone's house with a baseball bat waiting for them to come out.
Yeah. And it's like,
we should move on.
You come to me on the day that I reject your app.
Speaking of app store rejections, our Mike's app, sort of, the wonderful TG Tweets had an issue with their icon. And I actually had that thought in beta that he was using Mike was using the Twitter bird in the logo, and apparently Apple rejected it because it was a misleading use of the Twitter logo. And it looks like he's got a new one, at least on his profile.
Yeah,
picture,
somebody has saved the day and helped Danny out with a new logo. But I just thought it was interesting, like, and now our app's been rejected. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So that sort of thing I can understand. Kind of getting close to another brand, but there's definitely silliness.
But we failed as beta testers because we should have known better.
Stephen failed because
I thought about it, but then didn't say.
I just didn't tell anyone. It's like, the app doesn't work on my phone, but you'll work that out.
Yeah. So
there's a new icon coming. Did you guys see the tweet?
Yeah,
from
it looks good.
Yeah. I didn't see the icon. I just saw the tweet.
It's his Twitter bio picture. The feather.
The quill.
Oh,
yes.
Nice.
Thank you, Mike. It looks good. So, on occasion, we have talked about photo management on our show. I don't know if you guys have noticed. And
occasionally?
Occasionally. So, FU2 is about photos on iCloud.com. Disappeared for a little while. So there's a link to the Mac Observer. Basically, Apple didn't say anything, and iPhoto Photos for iCloud. Is that what we're calling it? Photos for iCloud? Is that what Apple calls it? It's very confusing.
Apple
in
Photos
iCloud,
in the cloud match in the cloud and
iPhoto in iCloud in iOS.
In the match.
Yes. So
X.
I think that's kind of weird, but it's still in beta, right? So if they took it down and put it back up, I think that's whatever. But I was going to ask you, Federico, and I meant to ask you when we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. What does Photos on iCloud match tunes? What does that look like on OS X? Do photos just show up in the iCloud Drive and Finder, or can you even access them at this point from the Mac? Because the Photos for OS X app is not out yet, of course. So, what's that experience like on your MacBook Air?
Okay, you're gonna hate me for this. I don't know
because you're not running Yosemite.
No,
right?
I am.
No?
I am.
Okay.
I just didn't bother to look because I just look at pictures on my phone and my iPad.
You're in front of your MacBook Air right now. So go to Finder.
What I'm supposed to look? Okay.
Go to Finder.
There's no iCloud Drive in my sidebar.
It's called the iCloud Photo Library, by the way.
So do you have it on, Mike?
Yes, I do actually.
Okay, so what does it look like if you have? What does it look like on the Mac?
I have my iCloud Drive, and there's no
Photos folder.
There's no Photos folder. There's nothing. There's other apps that I use on iOS and the Mac, but no Photos.
Okay, and the chat room is screaming that it's just in the browser, so it's on iOS.
Yeah, it's.
in the browser.
I used the iCloud.com web app for. The one time that I wanted to look at pictures on my Mac for some reason, probably because I was in a sort of Stephen Hackett fugue state. I wanted to look at pictures, because I'm taking pictures on my phone. Why would I want to look at pictures on my Mac? I mean, it's not like I use. I'm not one of those weirdos that they use like FX to post processing on photos, whatever. I just take pictures and save them and send them to my mom and my friends. I just don't process photos. What does it mean to process photos? I have no idea what I'm doing with pictures.
My photo library is currently being prepared.
Yeah, it's preparing itself.
It's currently preparing itself.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I've just logged in.
Guys, you know when they show you when there's people and they're excited to see. Like, in this photo editing app, you can see all the curves and all the levels, and I have no idea what that means.
That excites me.
I know that excites me. Because sometimes I try to tweak those sliders, and I mess up every time, and like a picture turns all dark and gloomy, and that sucks. I don't have any sort of photographic knowledge. So I just take pictures and I save them on my phone, and that's it. So I'm sorry, Steven, but I had no idea. But it doesn't seem like they're available in the Finder.
Okay.
So I'm looking.
Are you
I've
upset?
never looked online before, and it practically looks just like what it does on iOS.
There's a screenshot in the chat room from the wizard, and it's just a grid of images.
Yep.
So we'll add that to the show notes. Michael,
Yes.
where could people find the show notes?
relay.fm/connected/21.
Wow, you were all minimalistic.
It's my new rethinking for 2015.
Are you? This is the new Zen.
I want to just give the people what they want as fast as they can take it.
Yeah, that was really quick. You just really gave it to him fast.
Mm-hmm.
So follow-up number 3. We're almost halfway there.
Yay.
Last week during the show, I promised that I would look up our show notes in my virtual machine that is running NextStep, but my NextStep VM doesn't have a browser. So if you are out there and you can help me install a browser in my NextStep VM, please contact me because I would like to do that. And to be fair, spent 0 time looking into it. But if you want to help me, get in touch.
Is that because you failed?
It's because I forgot about it again.
You
really.
failed, didn't you? You don't know how to do it.
I didn't even look into how to do it.
But
So.
you don't just know, though.
I don't just know.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I could do it in, OS 8. So the next bit of follow-up 4, follow-up IV, if you will, if we're doing Roman numerals. Mike, I want to toss this to you about Google and the Motorola numbers from last week. Did you read this link on the New York Times?
No.
Okay. Well, there's a link in the New York Times about the Google and Motorola acquisition because I think we goofed up the numbers, but it's hard to tell because it's all very confusing.
Well, if anybody did, it wasn't me.
It was your segment.
Nah, I don't think it was. Okay, well, apparently some numbers are weird. If you're upset, then go read that link, which you can find in the show notes. Thank you very much to whoever sent that in.
Yeah, I don't know who sent that in.
So
I failed.
Follow-up IV was just a disaster, wasn't it? It was.
It really was. I'm really sorry.
Should we move
Well,
on to?
I'm sorry for you guys. You sound really sad.
It's really coming. We're 17 minutes in and the wheels are just off. It's really good. So the next 3 follow-ups 5, 6, and 7 are about our show notes in browsers. And the first one is in a homemade browser that Will Richardson on Twitter apparently made a browser when he was 14, and he used it to load our show notes. And
Can
it
you
didn't
just
go very
make
well.
browsers these days?
He did. It's called Meteor version 1.2, and the show notes don't load very well, but made his own browser. So
Wow,
that's
nice.
pretty cool.
Did he make it just so like it for us?
If he's 14 now, then yes, but I read it as if it were in past tense.
Okay.
He doesn't look like he's 14.
Okay.
But the next couple links, it's just so weird. Listener Brian loaded our show notes in a browser called 3B, not 3D.
Why is it
like
3B?
What is
3B
that?
rooms. It's it's your own personal 3D space. It's very strange. There's a link in the chat room to this. You should definitely go try it out. And you guys load up these dropper links real quick. Do you guys look at this?
This is
It's so weird.
This is like Mike. Did you know that the PlayStation Home thing where you control this little human in a virtual space? The next step is to ask people to do stuff like open the Relay website in these virtual realities. And why is this guy wearing a shirt with all these hearts?
Because he loves us. So the first one, screenshot 1, is looking at the connected page, and then it's our Twitter pages. And the person is wearing hearts, and I think that's really sweet.
Can you walk around while you're looking at show notes?
I think you can. I didn't try to use the product because I didn't want to make my computer explode.
But it looks so bad though.
It's really weird.
Can you jump in the car and drive against the show notes?
Self-driving show notes is big at CES this year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a thing. So that happened.
Well, it looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my!
I like the retro interface of this browser.
Like,
It's
there's
really-
some parts of it, like Screenshot 3, I don't even understand what's going on. Like,
Where is
what
the
is
route?
that?
What is the
I don't know.
destination button? What does it do? There's
I
a
don't-
subway button?
I don't know. It's
you
very
take relay?
strange.
Can you take relay
Air-
into the subway?
You can take
guess,
an airport shuttle and go visit Analog on the next page
Well,
over.
there should have been a tube button just for Mike.
There should be a
Just for Mike. Yeah.
So
So the last piece of follow-ups from Aaron on Twitter. I'm going to mess up Aaron's last name, so I'm just going to chicken out and skip it. Of Relay FM loaded up in Pixelfari, which is Nevin Murrin's browser. That is basically real 8-bitty. So it's like
I
it's
remember
Safari.
this.
Yeah, I totally forgot about it, but it's super cool, and it basically makes everything look like, Nevin's games are in 8-bit. So you have Space Age and The Incident, and so it's kind of that sort of look, and I think it looks pretty cool. And of course, it loads relatively well. There's a few issues in the navigation, but overall it works pretty well. I think it's great.
Yeah, I like this. This is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the follow-up this week.
Well, then it's probably about time for a sponsor.
That sounds good to me.
And this week's episode of Connected is brought to you by our friends at Hover. Hover is the best way to buy and manage domain names. It's been my place of choice for years, and when it comes to buying a domain name, it's the first and only place that I think to go. When you're trying to think of an idea for a project or a site of yours, or maybe you're looking for some sort of joke to play on a friend, Hover makes it so easy to look for the domain that you're looking for, because they have all of the TODs you expect. They have .com, .net, .co, .co.uk if you want it, but also some of the new crazy stuff like .diamonds, .limo, .coffee. Maybe you want to buy like Federico.coffee. If you really want that, Hover is the place. You just go to hover.com, you just search for what you're looking for. If it's available, you can just go through and buy it quick and easy. If the domain's not available, they're going to help you with some other suggestions of some other domains, with maybe using other TLDs or maybe using a combination of different words and that kind of stuff. They have really great pricing on all their domains, and they include Whois privacy for free as well, which is absolutely fantastic, so your private information is kept private. They have great, fantastic, awesome, super friendly customer support. They have a no hold, no wait, no transfer telephone support policy. They're famous for this, and there's a good reason why. When you call Hover, you're going to be talking to an actual human being. There's no robots. But if you prefer robotic communication or just not to speak to somebody on the phone, they also have great support documents and guides on their website, as well as great email support too. And don't forget Hover's valet service, where they take all of the hassle out of switching from your current provider, because they will take care of it for you. They do great stuff like volume discounts for bulk domain renewal. They do custom email addresses and so much more. So go to hover.com right now and try them out. You want to use the code RECONNECTED at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your first purchase at hover.com, and show your support for this show and all of Relay FM. Thank you so much to Hover for their continued support of Connected. Did you like the code, Federico?
Yeah, it was really, really, really great.
Hover is on board with our movie. Clearly.
Well, everybody is.
I
obviously.
mean, yeah, obviously.
We already received funding from a big Hollywood studio.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know
we did.
about this.
I did. I didn't tell you guys.
You did. You got it. All right.
Yeah.
As long as someone has it.
Yeah, it was like one of those scenes from Entourage, the TV show.
Never seen it.
Oh, yeah, it's really great.
Me neither. Is that like Star Wars?
Come on! You don't get my pop culture references. That's a problem.
I'm sorry.
Wait, what show am I on now?
Yeah, I'm sorry to be the... All right, so we have some real-time follow-up from a friend of the show, Doug Beal, who's in the chat room. Doug Beal threw up Connected on Emacs 24.4.1.
I don't know what that means.
It's very exciting to see our site in black and white and aqua. So that's also in the show notes now. So that
Why
is
the
now,
logo so big?
Because we scale it down on this. Oh, I can't. The file we use is much bigger than how it is shown on the website because of programming. Anyways, topic 0, guys. We're going to talk about Hackintoshes.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Okay, topic 0 is...
What year is this? We've got
Emacs
and Pixelfari and Hackintoshes. Like, this is 2015, guys. Come on.
It's definitely 2006. So this came up because listener Brian, who exchanged some emails with me this week, kind of asked our thoughts on it, and I thought it was an interesting topic, and I too thought it was dead. And then I looked around a little bit, and turns out, trademark, that Hackintoshes are totally still a thing. Just this week, we had sort of serendipity. I did not make this happen, but our Sweet Setup interview this week with Sebastian Green, dude runs a Hackintosh. Like, it's inside a Power Mac G5 case, which is like big bonus points for me. But he runs a Hackintosh. Friend of mine in real life, Thomas Newton, who writes Egg Freckles, runs a Hackintosh. And Lifehacker, of all sites, keeps an updated guide on building a Hackintosh. Like, people still do this. I don't know why, which is what I want to talk about.
It sounds like you're looking for validation.
Oh,
me?
Yeah.
I'm not building a Hackintosh.
Well, not yet.
I have no interest.
That's what all this is about. All this time, he's been collecting all these old
It's
Macintoshes.
been like, yeah, look at all these people doing Hackintoshes.
Great guys, huh? It's great guys, yeah.
And it's just winking. Yeah, Hackintoshes, right?
What do you think?
We don't approve.
Nope.
I'm not doing it, but there are a bunch of links in the show notes that if you want to do it, you could do it. I just don't. I don't understand. Like, I totally get the idea of like tinkering and like I want to build something myself, and like there are definitely like I understand that completely. I think there's advantages to like knowing your own hardware, like on a philosophical level, but it seems like such a giant pile of trouble. I don't understand. And this comes from somebody who I have done this in the past. I did it with I didn't build one, but I had back in 2009 first the HP Mini 1000 and then the Dell Mini 9 running OS 10. The Dell Mini 9 was like perfectly built to run OS 10. It ran Leopard like out of the box just about. So I've done this, and I know firsthand that at least in 2009, it was a major pain. Any update you had to like repatch or like change something, and maybe it's better now, but it definitely seems like a lot of work when Mac hardware is not that expensive these days. Like the prices have really come down. You can get something really powerful for really not that much money. So I don't understand why this is still a thing.
Can I just go back on something a moment?
Please.
Did you say knowing your hardware on a philosophical level?
I did say that, yes.
You did, yes.
Okay.
I think it's...
I just wanted to say...
I don't have to defend myself to the two of you.
Okay,
no,
so
I don't know what that means.
Let me defend Steven. I have to say that even if I want to, to make fun of his ideas on occasion, I do respect the challenge of a Hackintosh on a technological level. I think it's pretty cool, knowing all the different components and like how you can make OS 10 run on a hardware it's not supposed to. Like, it's not something that I ever do myself, but I understand why some people want. And I also think that in some countries where Apple prices get like crazy high for some reason, whether it's taxes or like other fiscal things that I don't understand, I think it makes sense to make a Hackintosh. So I would never do one myself, but I understand and I think I respect like the idea. I think it's pretty cool. I wouldn't say a philosophical connection to my hardware, but overall I think it is cool.
Do you feel like you philosophically connect to your iPad Air too?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
what
so
if
I understand. I understand.
What if you could Hackintosh and run iOS?
Oh, that'd be weird.
Yeah, and your price point conversation is a good one, the one that I didn't think about because I'm a silly American. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because I looked into it and like people are still doing it a lot, and so I thought it was just interesting to bring up. I really am not going to do one. So
okay.
Talking about weird Mac hardware.
Yeah, we should get into this.
Okay.
So what? Tell us, Mike.
Along with some other scoops last night, Scoop Machine Mark Gurman at 9 to 5 Mac posted a surprising piece about a completely new MacBook Air at the 12-inch screen size, completely rethought in the way it's designed with a bunch of different changes like keyboard spacing, using speaker grill fans and a trackpad with no clicking area, and just like no I/O of any kind, really. Just like 2 holes in the side. Loads of really interesting and very surprising changes to push the MacBook Air further down its down its road, down its like eventual road of becoming this incredibly thin, incredibly light, like incredibly thin piece of hardware. So we should talk about it.
Yeah,
okay, can I put forward my crazy theory first?
Yeah,
please.
Is it possible that this is a Mac that runs on ARM chip?
Oh,
Yeah, I saw some people tweeting about that. I think that's definitely a possibility, especially so this is another chapter in a long-running rumor, and for a while those rumors included that it would be fanless. Now you can run, like, there's Intel Ultrabooks and they run without fans, but I think the ARM thing is definitely a possibility here. And I think that is like part of a lot of other questions that I have. I have nothing but questions about this machine at this point.
It would kind of make sense in a way because it's doing a bunch of other weird things. So it may as well like be so radically different, Like I don't know, like the Retina MacBook Pro was like did a bunch of really weird stuff because it was so different. And the same as like the original MacBook Air as well. Like there were some fundamental changes, and I guess the fundamental change here would be runs on ARM and doesn't have any ports except one USB port, right? They're like fundamentally different, and they price them in such a way to like scare most people off. But pricing is a whole other thing. But go on, Stephen. Let's start looking at some of your questions.
Okay, so let's start with the port issue. So according to this rumor, it's going to have a headphone port on one side and a USB-C, which if you're not familiar, you should look at this link. USB-C is actually really similar to a Lightning connector. It's reversible. It's really small. And according to these images, it's the only port on the machine. Now, I didn't even think about it until Chuck Skoda on Twitter earlier, or just a little while ago, was like, Apple Watch has magnetic charging. Why wouldn't this have some sort of like snap-on magnetic charger? So like maybe that would be good. Like I don't want to have to unplug something to charge my computer. But one port, even if like the charging isn't through that port, which USB-C could charge a machine like this, really pushes this into iOS territory in the I/O. Like an iPad has one connector and a headphone jack.
Do you know, I hadn't really thought of that. That hadn't crossed my mind.
The Apple Watch angle?
No, not that. That it's
an iPad?
It's what an iPad has. Like you don't plug anything into it. Like you just don't do that.
Yeah, it's
Do you reckon that? I mean, this is another thought that I'm just having randomly. Do you reckon that like the charger would have I/O?
So looking at the iPad has a HDMI like adapter, so you can, instead of AirPlay, you can plug HDMI right into the iPad, and that adapter has a Lightning. It had a 30-pin, now has a Lightning connector on it, so you can charge and get power in and HDMI out at the same time. And that definitely leads to questions of dongles or docks, or what if this thing only has one port. Even on a MacBook Air, but especially on a MacBook Air, but even on a MacBook Pro, like my bag is full of dongles. I have Ethernet, FireWire 800, VGA, DVI, like all these things, because I'm out and about, and my MacBook Pro basically just has USB and Thunderbolt and HDMI. But even then, I'm adapting all the time. So to a degree, I think Mac users are used to this. But the alternative is, and I wrote it in all capital letters in my show notes, of OMG PowerBook Duo. Like what if this thing does come with a dock of some sort that you can put in your bag and it has all these ports? I don't think Apple's going to do that.
I think it's like the worst idea ever if they do. Like I need to hear Apple's, if this is true, I need to hear the marketing, because like one port is crazy making. Like for example, for me, like I have my keyboard that I use because I use the Microsoft keyboard with the hole in the middle that I can't remember the name of now. I have to plug a little USB dongle in for it to work. I don't know why. I don't know why they can't just use Bluetooth like everybody else, but you have to use this little dongle. Like, so I wouldn't even be able to use my keyboard if I want to charge, right? So that's, let alone, like, maybe I want to plug in my iPhone. Maybe I want to plug in anything, like a hard drive. The idea that I would then have to take, like, a dock in my bag kind of undoes the idea of portability. Like, laptops are portable.
I totally agree.
So having to carry around more so I can use my portable machine, kind of the whole point, like all you're doing is taking the weight that you're taking out of the machine, right, and adding it into something you have to carry with you anyway. So what's the point? And I get that, like, if you're on a plane, it might be fine and it makes it awesome for that and you plug it in, but I think that's too narrow, narrow in the thinking. Like, a laptop you take to the coffee shop or you take downstairs, or it's just the idea is you move it around. And if I have to carry around a bunch of cables and a dock with me just so I can have 2 USB ports that I can use whilst I'm charging, I don't know if I would want that. Like, I can't see why I would want that.
Yeah, and maybe the marketing angle is, hey, this thing gets crazy if it's on ARM. Maybe this thing gets like all-day battery life or 2-day battery life or something insane. And so Apple's argument is, you don't need, I mean, if you need to like sync your phone, LOL, you don't need to do that anymore. If Steven needs to sync his iPod Classic, he can do that. But, he doesn't need to really like carry a charger around with him. But that, I agree with you, Mike, is sort of thin reasoning. And it inevitably, like, these machines, if this is true, like, people are going to be carrying around a lot of extra stuff potentially. And I don't know if Apple like wants people to do that or not.
But like then I think this is like our version of the removal of the zip drive or like the removal of the floppy drive.
Yeah.
It's just
but like
I know, but every
power
single time
and USB at the same time is important for like a lot of things.
Yeah, but it's that idea that like if the idea being, if you think about previous times, is Apple has a vision for where they want to take machines, but first they have to have the first one, and then from that they change the way that we use our computers, right? If you think about it in those terms, like if you use hindsight, right, this might be that one. So we look at it as being crazy, and I'm like setting my hair on fire and running around my room because I see them having one USB port, but it's just the same as everything else that they've ever done. But so it's hard to see right now. But I hope that they're not. I hope they're not just hobbling the machine because they want to make it really thin and really light. You could put 2 on this. You could put two, right? There could be 2. At least.
I would imagine that if this is real, there's got
to be 2. Like,
the ports just don't sit right with me. There's nothing. I can't think of a single advantage except thinness and lightness. But if you already have the bus and everything, one more port shouldn't be a big deal. What's also interesting about this machine, I think, is the size. So not the thinness necessarily, but the fact that it's a 12-inch model, that raises a lot of questions. Apple sells an 11.6-inch MacBook Air. I just bought one for my wife last month. And I will say, that machine compared to this mythical MacBook Air, the new one looks so much better. Like, the 11-inch MacBook Air doesn't look good. Like,
no,
the bezel's
ugly.
The bezel is humongous. And it's like 16. The ratio of the screen is weird, so it's really short and really wide.
But I tell you what I like about this, though. This is a 12-inch laptop, like 12-inch screen laptop that's smaller than the 11.
Does his thing say that?
Yeah, the physical size is a quarter or 3/4 of an inch smaller than the 11-inch.
Yeah. And they're doing some things that harken back to the 12-inch PowerBook with like the full width keyboard. Is definitely something that was on the 12-inch PowerBook. Like, a lot of things about this machine are really interesting to me. But going back to the size thing, so is Apple going to sell a 11-inch MacBook Air, a 12-inch like MacBook Air 2, and then a 13-inch MacBook Air? Like, I don't know where this fits in line with the rest of the products. And my thought is, and we can surely argue about it, that if this has Retina, which Gurman doesn't say if it does or not, but if it does, I think this sits in between the current MacBook Airs and the MacBook Pro. So you have the non-Retina 11 and 13. Maybe their names changed to just MacBook again. You have this machine in the middle, if it's Retina, and then you have the Pros. That makes sense to me with the current landscape.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yes, sir.
Because I really don't understand. What's with the obsession of making laptops thinner? Because, I mean, I kind of get it on a phone. I kind of understand it there because a phone is something that you hold in your hands all the time, and therefore having a more comfortable physical size really helps. And I understand the argument for lightness in a laptop because you're carrying a laptop all the time, so it's important to make it light. But the crazy obsession with thinness at the expense, possibly, because this is a rumor, so we're speculating here, but at the expense of battery space, of I/O, of all these other compromises in this rumor, is it really worth it? Because just one port for the power adapter sounds crazy to me, like totally crazy, on a completely different planet than removing DVD and that other stuff that Apple does. But making it like so thin that, I mean, I have a 2011 MacBook Air, and I still think it is crazy thin. Am I wishing desperately for a thinner MacBook Air? No, but also I should note that I don't use my MacBook Air that much. But still, I mean, is it really necessary to compromise everything that a Mac is great for? So having ports, having more battery life than a phone or an iPad, is it really worth it just to be crazy thinner? Because it looks to me like a demonstration of finesse of look how awesome we can make our MacBooks, so thin and light. But do people really want that crazy thinness?
I mean, I agree with you, Federico, and it's the same argument we had with the iPhone 6. Like, if they kept the thickness the same as before, like, what does that mean battery life wise? I see it more like it makes more sense to me on a mobile device. But a 12-inch laptop, you can carry really in just about any bag. You can carry it very easily with you. And if Apple is trying to make a super portable Mac, weight is a huge factor there. I moved recently from a MacBook Air to a MacBook Pro, both in the 13-inch class. But the Pro is heavier and the Pro is thicker, and I do notice that in my bag. And so if this is all about portability, and they can still get good battery life. Like, there's no way this thing gets worse battery life than the current MacBook Air. Apple very rarely moves backwards in terms of battery life. So clearly they've been able to figure it out. And again, maybe that's ARM. Maybe maybe it's not Retina. Maybe it is. There's still too many unknowns. But I do think that the battery life, I just don't see them moving backwards on that at this point.
I think like the thickness argument, like if you're going to make it lighter, you're taking stuff out or you're making components smaller, so you end up with more space, so you may as well make the case thinner, right? In theory. But also, like, it is the traveling thing, as Steven said, you put it in a bag, right, and it takes up less space in your bag. But also, like, a super thin computer is a real marvel. Like, if you have, like, I remember, like, the original MacBook Air, right? It was like, what is this thing? And people buy it for that, because you pick it up in the store and it's like, this is like thinner than a book. This is crazy. This is a computer. And it's a good marketing tool. It's the same reason they make the phones thin, like, because they keep making them thinner because it looks good on the posters, and because you can get it's hiding behind a pencil. Wah wah. It's like it looks good.
Laser cut pencil.
It's sellable, right? It's sellable.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and the original MacBook Air is of course a really good way to think about this computer. We talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago in our Q&A that I had one for a short period and then got rid of it because the the performance was so bad. And on the original MacBook Air, that had everything to do with like they used an iPod hard drive, and turns out running OS X on an iPod hard drive is miserable. But I remember the keynote that they announced the MacBook Air in, and a little flip down door, and it had micro DVI. It's the only Apple laptop to ever ship with micro DVI. So again, in the world of adapters, like if you own a first gen MacBook Air, you have this adapter you can never reuse. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, they have one USB port. Like, what are you thinking? And of course, they rectified that later on. But the world dealt with the MacBook Air, and a lot of people really liked that first gen machine. And like what I think this will be, that first gen machine came with a hefty price. Now the MacBook Air is the base machine; it's the bottom of the tier. It's the cheap one. But that was not the case when the original MacBook Air came out. I don't remember how much it was, but it was significantly more than a MacBook. And so maybe this machine is following that trajectory. That like there's trade-offs here, but you're making those trade-offs to make your bag light and to keep a computer thin. And if that interests you, and we don't have the performance problems of yesteryear because we're on SSD and we've made great strides in heat consumption and all these things, then maybe this machine is like the fulfilled promise that the original MacBook Air couldn't deliver on.
So to go back to the pricing discussion, the question that you asked a minute ago, like where does this sit in the line? I think that this device, no matter whether it's cheaper or more expensive, will sit outside of the MacBook Air line in the same way that the Retina MacBook Pro sat outside of the MacBook Pro line. It was like you went to the store and it was like MacBook Air. Or MacBook Pro, it'd be like MacBook Pro with Retina display. I think it'd be like that. You get MacBook Air and then MacBook Air with X or 12-inch MacBook Air, I don't think...
the Retina displays were more. Like those machines were more. They sat above the line, and then slowly, I don't think you can buy a non-Retina MacBook Pro anymore. I think they're all gone. But slowly took over. And I think you're right. I think that probably makes a lot of sense, Mike.
I think this will be more expensive, by the way.
I think so.
Can I ask you another question? Because I'm you guys know that I'm not so into Macs lately, but this is fascinating to me. Can we, if this rumor is true, that's always the basic introduction here. If this is true, can we extract some theories about the future of OS X from this type of MacBook? And I thought of two. One is that without many USB ports, I think people will rely even more on AirDrop and other Bluetooth and Wi-Fi transfer solutions for files, especially now that it's supported on iOS and OS X. They can exchange files between the two of them. And the second one is that with a large trackpad, multi-touch gestures are still going to be a thing on OS X. Is there anything else that we can assume about because, a MacBook, it's cool, it's great. It's thin and it's got this new keyboard. Okay, well, whatever, right? It'll be amazing hardware, but how does it affect the software if this is true?
Well, I think there's even some going the other way that we've all said, everyone has said Yosemite looks better on a Retina display, but they sell a boat ton of MacBook Airs. And so I think this can address, I think the software maybe points to this even in that way. And we should say before we move on that you totally can buy a 13-inch MacBook Pro with no Retina display still. It's still on sale today, which seems silly, but it's $1,100. So spend the extra $100 and go Retina, I guess. But I think that's really interesting to think about, Federico. And I think AirDrop is definitely a big part of that. Again, with the original MacBook Air,
works.
Well, there is that. On the original MacBook Air, in that keynote, there's a slide that has a picture of an optical disc and just one word, "Y," over the top of it. And in that keynote as well, Apple talked about streaming and that you could re-download purchases from the iTunes store. And they built the case that optical media is dead. This is the first computer we're shipping without an optical drive. And you don't need it because we have all these other things. And I think this machine can follow in those footsteps and say, you know what? Your iOS devices already don't need to sync with iTunes anymore. If you need to move files sure, if you need gigabit Ethernet, here's an adapter. But if you don't need it, you just need AirDrop or peer-to-peer wireless. It's already built in, so you don't need all the stuff that nerds want to hold on to.
Okay, how about this? If you can allow me to interrupt you, Steven. Now that we have iCloud Drive, and now that we have iCloud integration in Mail, you need fewer ways to exchange files with other people physically, and we're going to make iCloud Drive more like Dropbox, and you can easily store files in iCloud Drive and share them with people with a simple link instead of putting them on a USB dongle and giving the USB dongle to somebody else. So can we, I think it's, I mean, I'm not sure, I think it will be crazy, but if the rumor is true and if Apple is crazy enough to really do this, I think that it's not too crazy on our end to assume that they're gonna do some sort of new file store exchanging features, whatever. I think removing the physical components means, because people are not gonna stop sharing files, of course. If you when you took away the DVD and the CD drive from people, they didn't stop using files. They just moved the files from the CD and the DVD to USB. If you take USB away from people, those files are going to be used anyway, just in a different way. So does this mean that Apple is going to rely even more on storing files in the cloud? And if that's the case, is the cloud iCloud Drive? And if that's the case, again, does it mean that iCloud Drive is getting new sharing features?
It did. It got mail drop in Yosemite that I can email you a file of almost any size, and it's using iCloud Drive in the background to move it.
But you still cannot create a shareable link just to iCloud Drive like you can in Dropbox.
But this is what I was saying before about like Apple creating a project that like paves for the future.
Yeah.
So they say like, we want to do this. We need this device to do this. This is the future, but it starts here. So they that's why I think it's priced high. Like, I don't, there's conjecture over whether it costs more, costs less, like whether that's why they're doing X, Y, and Z. I think it's priced high because this is not a device for everyone, because they are making some serious, like, because I think, there'll be all crazy things it will do. It will run hot, right? Because there's no fans and it's going to run hot, right? And they think that it won't, but you'll get weird stuff that happens with it. There's probably some things in there that maybe we don't even know about yet, which are like super weird. Maybe the battery isn't any better than the MacBook. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's just like, well, we're doing this now and then over the time it will get better and better. Or like, it will turn out like, and it runs on ARM, and by the way, everyone needs to recompile their apps. It's like, you don't know what these kind of things are going to be like. Stephen, tell me if what I said was completely dumb about the ARM thing.
You probably use some verb in a strange way. No, but we will get follow up.
All right, so let me ask this question then, because I just thought now I said it, I'm interested in it. If Apple use ARM chips, do people have to recompile their apps in the same way that they did for Intel?
There would need to be some sort of fat binary system, like the transition from PowerPC to Intel. I mean, there will be a transition because Intel code won't run natively on ARM.
Right, so that's the other thing, right? If this is an ARM device, then it's like it's going to be the start of that transition device potentially. So I don't know. But like my point is like I see this as like the original MacBook Air and like the first Retina MacBook Pro. It is a future-facing device that Apple will price accordingly.
Does the Mac do backups in iCloud like you can on iOS?
No.
So maybe that's another possibility, because if you take away USB, what about Time Machine? And I don't know. Just thinking that.
Yeah, but
I think Mike is right.
You can do Time Machine to like a time capsule, like wirelessly. Like they're not gonna. I can't ever see a world where Apple allows you to back up 256 gigs of storage to the cloud.
Yeah,
it's never gonna happen. It's just too much.
Never say never. Never say never.
No, it's never gonna happen. And the reason I say that is because there is never a world in which that becomes affordable. Because as Apple get the ability to store more and more, hard drives just get bigger, or like SSDs just get bigger. So like they move along together. That's my theory on that anyway.
Yeah, but I think the idea of like iCloud backup on iOS and the Mac is just fundamentally different. I mean, you can restore from iCloud on iOS, but it's definitely not the same as like a Time Machine backup where you have history and versioning and all these other things. I don't know. I tend to agree that I don't think Apple's going to do that. And even if they did, I don't think I would use it. But yeah, there's lots of questions. But I think overall, I think we're in agreement that this machine, if it's real, if this is what it is, it's definitely going to move the bar, move things forward in the notebook space in a big way.
So what do we think? Is this happening? Like, does this seem feasible? I think it does.
I think it does.
Do we want to talk about the timing at all?
No.
Did you see the post that we had on Mac Stories today?
I did.
I did, and I linked to it, but there was a bunch of arguing about that on Twitter, and I don't think Apple leaks things in 9-to-5 Mac on purpose. I could be wrong, but I don't see this being Apple PR speaking through Mark Gurman.
I don't see that either, but what I do see is like there has been no other Apple news during CES week, and that would be breaking a multi-year trend. So I don't know. I don't think that they would go to Gurman, right? But it is still weird.
Of all people.
Yeah. It is still weird because they haven't done anything else, and that is the way Apple's operated for years. So I don't know what I think about it.
Yeah.
Right, should we take a break?
So. Yes.
We should.
This week's episode of Connected is also brought to you by Loot Crate. Loot Crate is a monthly subscription box service for epic, geek, and gamer items and pop culture gear. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and so much more. With the start of 2015 upon us, Loot Crate wanted the first crate of the new year to celebrate the geek and gaming icons of the past. Join them as we rewind and look at exclusive items from Star Wars and Voltron. That's not all. Loot Crate are also bringing some epic geek apparel, including an exclusive and licensed shirt so you can kick off the new year in style. Finally, get ready to decorate your desk with an awesome retro gaming-inspired mashup figure. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate. And when the cutoff happens, that's it. It's over. So head over to lootcrate.com/connected and enter the code connected to save 10% on any new subscription. A couple of things else I want to mention about Loot Crate. They ship to over 9 countries, and they have more information on this site about those, but it includes the UK and US and Canada and many more. Loot Crate guarantees $40, over $40 of value in every single crate, and sometimes it's a lot more than that. And previous crates have included items from franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, The Walking Dead, The Legend of Zelda, and many more. So go to lootcrate.com/connected and use the code connected to save 10%. Thank you so much to Loot Crate for their support of this show.
All right. So it's a new year, and lots of people do new things in the new year. But Federico, you've got some things in here that you're currently trying. What's cooking?
So every year, after I recover from the New Year's Eve night, I sit down, and it used to be at my MacBook, and now it's at my iPad. But I try to understand whether the software I'm running is still the best for me. So I try to use the occasion of a new year to reevaluate some apps, some services that I pay for, and I've been doing this for like 3 or 4 years now, and every year I discover something new. It's like those people who like move furniture around, just to see if maybe there's a better option. I know my mother is one of those people, and instead of moving furniture, I sign up for new web services. And so I saved 4 of these new apps and services that I'm trying. So if you guys want, I would like to discuss this with you.
I want to hear it.
Okay, so the first one that I wanted to take a look at, not just because maybe it will turn into a Mac Stories article, but just out of personal curiosity, was whether Instapaper was still the best read later app for me. I have a complicated history with read later apps. I used Instapaper for years. 2 years ago, I switched to Pocket. Then from Pocket, I switched to Safari Reading List, but I was missing Instapaper's text features too much,
And
so
just
I switched.
all features. Just
Yeah, but especially the text presentation and the friends network. I don't like. I know this is gonna sound really bad. Like I don't care about. I'm trying to phrase this in the list uh, in the way that it will have fewer consequences for me. I don't care about.
just say it. Say it.
I'm not a typography expert.
Okay, you don't care about fonts, is what you're saying.
No, not. Like I don't.
What you're saying?
What he
is,
was afraid of, you just did.
Mike.
Hey, buddy.
So, okay, I'm not one of those people who spends time adjusting the margins and the font weight, the font size, and I want to have this serif and sans serif. Like, not because I don't care, because it's like I'm arrogant. It's just that I don't understand, and I don't think my like the way that I read requires these settings. It's like those people who taste wine, and when they drink wine, they want like the advanced glass because it's better for the type of wine. You know, I don't understand. I just use a normal font. Anyway, I don't know what normal means. It's just the default one usually.
Helvetica.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. No, I use the serif one, the one with the little details. You know. So last year I was missing Instapaper's features too much. I switched back. In the past few months, after putting together my must-have annual roundup for the apps that I use, I was wondering whether is Instapaper really the best for me, because I love the app. It's just, I think it is my it is 50% my duty and other 50% my curiosity to see what Pocket has been doing. So I asked on Twitter about what are you guys using for read later apps, and I received, I think, like 300 replies, and they were fairly evenly split between Instapaper and Pocket, with a few people using Readability. It appears they are still around, and Pinboard and Safari Reading List and other apps that I don't know, like there's one called Reading Pack, I think. Anyway, most people were using either Instapaper or Pocket, so I was surprised actually to see. I thought that people who followed me would be more inclined to use Instapaper, but half of those people actually use Pocket, so I was like, okay, maybe I should try Pocket again. So I've been trying Pocket. I paid for a premium account myself because I wanted to get the full experience. You know, when I try all these new apps, I want to go all in, so because I want to understand. And I gotta say, I kind of like it. Like the first week, I thought it was a placebo effect, because this is new, so it must be better, Like when you move furniture around again, it always looks better because it's new. But I've been using this for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, happy to say
this never gets old. This is awesome. So this has been, I think, week 2 or week 3, the beginning of week 3 maybe. I think it is pretty good. The text parser is much better than Instapaper. I'm seeing less weirdness in the way that Pocket parses articles on the web. Like it supports captions for images better, and in general, it's got less craft in the text, and like the way that articles flow in Pocket, it's less weird. It's not perfect, but it's less weird than Instapaper. And I think that the presentation with images and like Pocket as a grid, like with previews or with photos and thumbnails for videos, I think it looks fantastic. And in general, I know this is gonna sound weird. But it seems that Pocket has been moving from a read later solution to a more like a strange mix of it's both read later and like a bookmarking service. Because there's this thing called Pocket Premium, which I don't see many people talking about, but it's basically a permanent storage solution for your Pocket archive. It archives web pages, so you can it's like the Pinboard. What is it called? Like a archival account. It creates an offline copy of a web page, and it also gives you advanced search options and the ability to automatically assign tags to articles. So it's basically bookmarking features into Pocket, and you pay like $50 a year. And you also ensure the usual stuff, like you support the service and you make sure that it's going to be around in the future. So what I'm doing basically, and this is gonna sound so confusing and so like people are gonna be, what? I'm using Pocket as both a read later and bookmarking system.
So you're not using Pinboard?
Nah,
What?
At least not in the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
Because I really go into these rabbit holes sometimes, and I question everything about myself. And usually that everything is about software. And I know this is gonna sound unnecessarily epic to people, but I do question everything because I want to understand what I do. So yeah, I've been like, I told you, you two, my fellow podcasters, I told you that I use Twitter faves a lot. Like whenever I see a link that I want to read or view in the future, I just give it a star. And since I started using Pocket, I actually just send everything to Pocket. So I'm using the favorite feature just for actual favorites, like tweets that I like or that make me laugh. It's usually stuff from Kyle and Joe. I actually use faves for faves and Pocket for links. And it's both for articles that I want to read, but I actually also saved like tutorials and Python stuff into Pocket. So this is interesting. I want to see how it works out for me. Two things that I don't like. Whenever you share an article, it shares the article with a short link. So I had to put together a workflow to resolve the link and use the original link of an article because I don't like using the pocket.co short links. And it doesn't have highlights. I'm kind of missing highlights from Instapaper. I wasn't a huge user of highlights, but I do like the idea on principle. I want to be able to easily highlight text that I like. So that's not in Pocket. We'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic because I think it's kind of different, and I wouldn't be too sad to just move from a dual system of bookmarks and read later to just one system that sorts everything for me. Search is also pretty awesome, but it's too soon.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at Pocket. I looked at it last year for a little while, and sort of what you led with is why I stay with Instapaper. I just really prefer the reading experience, but I think overall both are in really good shape. I think BetaWorks has done a really good job with Instapaper, and I think Pocket's made a lot of advancements, and so it's good to have competition. And I definitely use Instapaper kind of the way you just talked about using Pocket, where it's not just read it later stuff. Sometimes I use Instapaper, even though I have a Pinboard account, just to stash something away, or like, hey, I'm going to link to this afternoon and just stick it in Instapaper, which isn't, not great, and it leads to some noise in there. But the key is, what works for you. So
I miss the Instapaper friends section a lot. I really like to see what Steven or Marco or Mike. I don't think you share stuff on Instapaper, probably because you don't read.
Yeah.
So I do. I like to see
it handles
Steven...
videos just fine.
I just saved. I mean, all the videos are on YouTube anyway, so I just use the YouTube watch later function.
Yeah, sure. We don't believe you, Mike, but anyway.
So what else is getting turned inside out for you, Federico?
So I have an RSS problem, and and I realize it's an issue. I keep switching between RSS clients, probably because I have too much free time on my hands sometimes, but also because I do it for the greater cause. That's my excuse for everything. So I'm looking for an RSS reader that allows me to see articles inside the folder, sorting them by popularity instead of date or name. And I don't think this exists. I know that Feedly does that to an extent when you go to the website. I think there's a popular filter on the homepage, but I don't think that any other service has a popularity filter. So for context, I switched from Feed Wrangler to Feedly last summer, because for the same reason. It's just instead of switching in January, I switched in June to get a better understanding of what other people are using. I think it is a common geek mistake to get too entrenched in a single idea or belief. So I switched to Feedly to see what was up with that. Also because 2 years ago, I bought a lifetime Feedly Pro subscription. Yeah, I know. It was like one of 5,000. So I think I got a pretty good deal because it was limited.
But now you're forced to use it.
No, it's not that I'm forced. I have let's say that maybe when I use it, I don't feel bad, because, hey, I'm actually using this. So I switched to Feedly.
so just Mike's hardware buying problem you do with software and services.
And apps. Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, just want to double check that. That's good. Not on my own here.
Yeah.
We still haven't spoke about that cup.
Anyway. Yeah, that's going to be a whole episode. News readers.
Yes, last year I switched from Feed Wrangler to Feedly, and I used Feedly first with the reader, then I switched to Newsify, which is a fantastic RSS reader for iOS. And I especially like the Newsify is fast, and it lets you customize the way that you share articles. You can assign a single tap and hold on the article list to bring up the system share sheet. So you can send articles to extensions, which is nice. And the app is, it's clean, polished. It's got a freemium business model, which I think it's really smart considering the modern app store. But now, I use Twitter lists a lot, and I use Nuzzle to catch up on Twitter and articles that people share when I'm away. But now I'm wondering, okay, so RSS is my file system for news, and I want to be able to open RSS. Depending on the time that I have, I want to see either all articles from newest to oldest, because that's just how I work. I know, Steven, that upsets you because it should be from oldest to newest. But you were gonna say that, right?
No,
No. Oh, okay.
In Reader, I have stuff set newest to oldest.
Oh yeah, I must be confused. I think that sometimes you used to say that. Anyway.
Don't put words in my mouth, Federico.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
My fault. So depending on the time that I have, I want to be able to look at articles, either all of them or just the popular ones, and yesterday, I asked on Twitter, is there a way to sort tweets in a Twitter list by popularity based on retweets and faves? And it doesn't seem that there's a way to do that, but that would be pretty smart, And I think the problem is that Twitter doesn't care about lists or the list API. So my idea was, okay, maybe there's an RSS reader that does this. So I was like, okay, I'm using Feedly. Is there a way to do this in Feedly? I couldn't find a way to sort articles on popularity, whether it's, how many people are reading these articles or maybe are sharing this article. So basically, I signed up. I had this realization. It was like when you're in the desert and you see water. And I signed up for NewsBlur.
Oh no!
So this is an entirely different RSS service.
What? What? Did you sign up for a lifetime account by any chance?
No. But it was really cute, and there's this single guy making this service, and there's a picture of his dog, and it's like, if you pay for the service, you're gonna feed my dog for 12 days, and I thought that was really cute and funny. So I signed
That
up.
sounds terrible, though. Only 12 days.
Yeah, but there's 7,000 people using the pro service.
Oh, well, then
So
you don't need to feed the dog. The dog's fed.
So how many days is the dog gonna live if you do 7,000 for 12?
Do you pay a year, or what do you pay?
You pay a year.
Yeah, well,
So
that's more than that's more days than there is in a
80,000
year.
days. 80,000 days.
Yeah, see,
Come on, that's 230 years. This dog is gonna live a lot with our food.
yeah, this dog's fine, man.
Yes, she's fine. But anyway, the picture was really the photo was really cute.
That's all it
And-
takes. Just put a picture of your dog, and Federico will buy your service.
True
Oh,
story.
my
True story.
poor
There was
dog.
also a problem for me with Plex. Every time they have an update, they share like in the blog post on the company blog. Every time there's a new feature, they use a photo of the dog, like Berkeley, the Plex dog. And every time I see the Plex blog posts, I want to try out the new features just to feel a connection with. Anyway, I'm just weird with dogs. So there was a picture of the dog, and I signed up for Newsblur because there's a real reason, not just a cutesy one. Basically, Newsblur lets you. So it's ugly, okay? It doesn't look really pleasant. It looks like a Windows file system, slightly polished up. It's kind of weird, really. It looks like a dashboard for links. I don't know. It lets you train the service to specific keywords or titles or authors in RSS items. So if you say, okay, I want to see more of this topic, or I want to see more of this author, or I want to see less from this specific source, if you train the service with time, there's a focus mode in the app. So you can view RSS articles. There's 3 sections: all, which shows you all articles; unread, which shows you new stuff; and focus, which shows you the important stuff. So my idea was, okay, if I train this service enough, maybe one day I will be able to open the app and go to the focus mode, and I will see all of the important stuff. But then again, like, if I train this service, it is not going to be about popularity. It is going to be about the stuff that I instruct the service to look for. So it's not strictly about the number of shares and the number of hits that an article gets. It's just about, keywords and stuff. So we'll see. I don't know, because Newsblur also has comments, which is kind of weird. You can comment in an RSS reader because it's kind of like a social platform. You can follow people there. Search is it's crazy fast. I was able to find RSS articles from 2011 in 2 seconds. It goes way back in years. I don't know how to do it, but I guess that when you give it a subscription, it tries to load as many articles in the past as possible. That's kind of cool. Still, it does look pretty terrible.
Yeah, I checked it out right after Google Reader died. I looked at a lot of services, and it's definitely not real pretty on the eyes. But if you use it with a third-party app, I guess you're sort of shielding yourself from that a little bit.
What do you guys use for RSS these days?
Feed Wrangler and Unread on my iPhone. It's the only service and app that I use.
Yeah, I use Feedbin for the service, and then Unread on iOS and Reader on the Mac.
Mm-hmm. So there's no way to, at least in the apps that you guys use, there's no way to sort articles based on popularity.
No.
In RSS.
No, but I view something like Nuzzle, Nuzzle for me kind of fills that need. I don't necessarily want to look at my news that way all the time, so I kind of view that as like separate from the way I read RSS. But maybe that's just me.
RSS and just getting news is just not an important thing for me. Like, I find out about everything I need to find out about through osmosis on Twitter. Like, it just is there. People are talking about it. I don't have a business which relies on news quickly, you know? I don't need to post links and stuff like that. And pretty much all of the topics on the shows tend to be what everybody's talking about. So...
So I have my last two items. Zapier, it's basically an IFTTT for geeks. I know that IFTTT is already for geeks. This is basically the more advanced version.
This is for Federico. That's what
no, there's plenty of people using it, not me. Don't make me sound like the crazy person every time.
You do a good job on your...
I looked at it actually a couple weeks ago, maybe, and it seems
it's crazy.
Really crazy.
Yes, it is. So it's a web automation. You can connect multiple services together. IFTTT calls them like channels and recipes. Zapier calls them like just I think apps and zaps. And actions, whatever. The terminology is kind of weird, but the functionality is amazing. So you can do stuff like you can create conditions for ifs. You can there's a free service that you use in combination with Zapier called the Zapier email parser, which looks for specific like strings of text in emails. And it can extract that text and use it as a placeholder in other actions. You can do stuff like it just offers more data when you're trying to create an action. Like it allows you to like all the different tags and variables. It's just much more than IFTTT. You can create different. You can use different accounts for the same service. So you can connect like 2 Google Docs accounts or 2 Twitter accounts, and you can view a full history of all your actions and whether they worked or not. And if they didn't work, you can basically there's a debug mode, and you can understand why you're not, a piece of data is not getting from service A to service B. And in general, it's just a more advanced. It's basically IFTTT for power users, and
it's also sort of expensive looking at this pricing.
It is expensive. I'm paying $20 a month to use this. So right now I'm doing stuff like I can post to different Slack channels using email. That's kind of nice, but not like a must-have for me. What isn't a nice addition to my workflow is I'm getting notifications in Pushover, which is this notification iOS app. Every time specific Twitter accounts or Apple's YouTube channel or Apple's press release websites posts a new item, I get a notification on my device. And because I'm paying for the $20 a month account, I'm getting those notifications in under 2 minutes. They say 15 minutes. It's actually much, much faster than that. I would like to have like to know that it's not going to be 15 minutes, because in my experience, it's never been 15 minutes. I'm also using other stuff, like I get a notification every time our newsletter goes out on MailChimp. What else? I'm doing stuff to like save my RSS articles from Mac Stories to a Google Sheets spreadsheet. So I'm kind of curious to see whether this, because I think I stumble across many limitations with IFTTT, and I want to see whether my problem is the lack of options in IFTTT, or maybe that I just don't rely on web automation that much. So I just wanted to shake things up a bit and see what's up with my web automation. You guys use IFTTT?
No. I mean, not really. There are a couple of things that IFTTT does for me, but I don't use it as such. Like, it's not something that I'm always adding to, like workflow, which I love.
Yeah, I play with it, but I don't rely on it for anything on any regular basis. I had some stuff like archiving to Evernote, like, Twitter favorites to Evernote, that sort of thing, a while ago, but I sort of lost interest in it, and I don't think I have anything running currently.
Right then, gentlemen, do you have anything else we'd like to add on this week's show? Or are we good? Are we good to bring it home?
I think we're good, Mike.
I do want to say one thing. I don't have the new fave animation that everybody has on Twitter.
No.
I don't have it. Like, I don't know why. My app's up to date.
Are you using Twitter on the iPhone?
Yeah.
On the iPhone. Are you sure?
Yes. I'm sure I'm using Twitter on the iPhone. No, I'm using it on my Mac. Of course it's my iPhone. I don't have the animation. I have the old animation.
This is your punishment. This is your punishment.
Twitter A/B tests things even within their own app. So maybe you're just not in the test group.
So I'm in like the B group, like the B minus group. Everyone's like, I love this animation. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's just the same as it was before. But there you go.
And you're sure you updated the app?
100%. I even deleted it and reinstalled it.
Wow,
you really wanted it.
What?
You really wanted to see.
I don't know why I'm not getting
Mike,
it.
The animation is so good, Mike.
I know, everybody. I've seen GIFs. I've seen GIFs.
You really gotta see them in action, man. It's so good.
I can't wait until Twitter does something you hate.
Seems impossible. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Connected. You can find the show notes at relay.fm/connected/21. Thanks so much to our sponsors this week, our friends over at Hover and Loot Crate. If you want to find us online, I am at imike, IMYKE. Federico is at Vitici, VITICCI, and Stephen is at ISMH. Stephen writes the fantastic 512pixels.net, and Federico writes the great macstories.net, and I host many shows at relay.fm, which you can find at relay.fm. And thanks so much for listening. We'll be back. Say goodbye, boys.
Arrivederci.
Adios, amigos.
Bye.